How did a tiny number of people in an obscure sect conquer not only the Roman Empire, but become the most powerful force in the history of mankind? Today, we look at a final reason. Hello everyone. In previous videos, we have looked at 4 reasons Christianity grew and triumphed against all odds. Today, we look at reason number 5. Christianity has by far the most power to transform and build human culture. It is the greatest cultural force that has ever existed. It has built the greatest culture in the history of the human race and is building new Christian cultures all over the world. Let there be no mistake. Christianity wields more cultural power than any religion or ideology that has ever existed. Whether you love the Christian faith or hate it, there is no denying its cultural power. Now, why does it have so much power? Or, to put it another way, how do you shape a culture? I want to look at 5 broad categories or steps you need to take if you're going to build a culture. I live in America, and Christianity's competitors are trying to build cultures of their own. They simply do not have the means to build a superior culture, and I predict they will fail. Let's look at the 5 ways. First, the Christian church builds community better than any institution or group that has ever existed. A community is a civilization in microcosm. It pulsates with values that form a civilization. If you have enough local communities, they have a culture-wide reach, and then a worldwide reach. I remember my boss at the University of Colorado asking me to build a sense of community into the students in our program. Now, I sat in silence listening to him as he expanded on what he wanted done, but in my heart, I knew he had asked the impossible. A university program simply cannot create community, at least not like the Christian church. I was standing in front of a building at the university one time, and a colleague, a psychology professor, came up to me. She said, "Phil, I understand you're a pastor." I thought, uh-oh, here it comes. So I admitted I was a pastor. She said, "It must be wonderful to live in community." Wow. She knew enough about the Christian church to know that we have community no one else has. I sensed in her loneliness and isolation that I don't experience. If you have grown up in the Christian church, you have never spent a day of your life in which an army of people did not care about you. Now, sometimes you may think they care too much, but as a Christian, you are never alone. You are in the greatest and most powerful community that has ever existed. Second, Christianity transforms culture because of its astonishing cultural diversity. There is no subculture on earth it cannot accommodate itself to. In Revelation, we find the throne of God surrounded by a giant choir composed of singers from every tongue and tribe and nation. It will be the most diverse choir ever. It is impossible to detect a Christian by how he dresses or what music he listens to. Some religions can be identified just by how they look. They intend it that way, but not Christianity. One time, a young man from my church met me at a restaurant to talk about the Bible. As we sat down, a rather interesting-looking waiter brought us our menus. He had a shaved head, except for a mohawk with a long ponytail. He had earrings 6 inches long dangling down. After he left, my friend took out a Bible and began to ask his questions. The waiter returned. Then he said, "Yo, dudes, you are in the Word!" Christians have ministries to every conceivable cultural group. You couldn't tell this guy was a Christian by looking at him, but we soon discovered that he was a brother in Christ. There is something called the Christian Surfing Association, Dudes for Jesus. In my town, there is a church called the Scum of the Earth Church. I've talked to people who attend it. They say they are attending scum. I was a member of the Faculty Christian Fellowship at the University of Colorado, composed of a number of intellectuals. I spoke one time at something called Lockheed Christian Fellowship, It was a gathering of rocket scientists who graduated from MIT and Caltech, and yet they gathered together to worship and to pray to Jesus Christ. I live in the western United States. Every year, around the first week in August, I see thousands of motorcycles heading for Sturgis, South Dakota, for the largest motorcycle rally in the world. There is a group that goes every year called the Christian Motorcycle Association. They have on the backs of their Harleys big crosses. On the backs of their black leather jackets it says "Riding for the Sun." There are biker churches. There is no cultural group that Christianity hasn't adapted itself to. Third, Christianity transforms culture because it has universal appeal. The poor can become Christians. A slave can become a Christian. The rich can become Christians. People plagued with terrible sins. Every ethnic group. Children with Down syndrome. And the greatest intellectuals of all time. All kneel before Jesus Christ and worship Him. There is no individual on earth who is beyond the reach of the gospel. You name the worst group of sinners you can think of. People you are convinced are beyond the pale. People for whom there is absolutely no hope. And I guarantee you God is at this very moment drawing people in that group to Himself. And you may as well get used to it, because some of them are going to spend eternity with you. They will be your brothers and sisters in Christ forever. Fourth, Christianity transforms culture through transformed families. In Genesis 3, we are taught that when a man gets married, he is to leave his father and mother and cling to his wife. Now, in many cultures, that's a revolutionary concept. It may not be to you, but it is in a lot of places. A man, according to the Bible, is to be the head of his own family. Not the clan, not the tribe, not the village, not the community. He is responsible for his family. Christianity is the only religion to demand sexual fidelity on the part of men. Think that helps family life a little bit? Family historians credit Christianity with the creation of childhood. In the ancient world, it was an unappreciated category, and Jesus' disciples were shooing children away from Him. But He changed all that when He said, "Permit the little children to come to me." And no one has done more than the Christian church to elevate the status of women and to grant her the importance she and the home deserve. These family values transform culture. The family is the greatest purveyor of Christian values, which is why the major religious competitor to Christianity in America, the progressive left, is determined to undermine the traditional family. But they will fail. And Christian families will continue to raise powerful warriors for Christ who will shape the culture of the future. Fifth, Christianity transforms culture through its emphasis on education. The Christian church is the most powerful educational force that has ever existed. One time at the University of Colorado, I was asked to speak at a large banquet honoring outstanding students. So I chose as my theme that Western Christian culture emphasizes education more than anyone in world history because we believe that there is a God and He speaks in written form. And if He speaks in written form, what does it behoove you to do? Learn to read. And it's why we teach people to read. It's why Christians go all over the world building orphanages and schools. It is no accident that the world's greatest universities reside in Christian culture. We invented them 1,000 years ago. We were the first to offer universal education. We were the first to demand compulsory education. It doesn't take any imagination to see the importance of education in shaping culture. This is why the progressive left has attempted to take over and control public education, something they have largely succeeded in doing. This completes my series on why the Christian church triumphed. If you haven't already, go back and listen to the other 6 videos in this playlist and check out the resources below. I welcome your comments. May God bless you in a mighty way.